Yo everyone, it's here. It's finally here. SCP-SL's 14.0 update is going to be going into Patreon beta tomorrow, and I gotta say, this is probably the biggest update the game has seen yet. Things have been reworked, an entire zone has been overhauled, and there's even a few new things in there.
Dev team.
We're going to be going over all of that and more, so if you like the sound of that, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. We'll be discussing what's going to be in this beta from the start, then move on to what's going to be added throughout the beta, and finally what will be added on the full release. Sound good? Great. Let's go! Starting us off, we have Heavy Containment Zones Overhaul, and man, even though we've already had a zone technically get overhauled in the past with Light Containment Zones hallways, this is leagues above that. All the special rooms have had changes ranging from small to huge, and on top of that, the hallways are dramatically different in shape, size, and content. A lot of that content coming from the clutter system, which will now randomly spawn props around Heavy Containment Zone to give the facility a bit more life to it. And to give you opportunities for juking, you little gremlins, you. There's a lot to show off here, so I'll let you take it in for a second without me yapping. Alright, next up we got the new 3X Particle Disruptor. It comes with a brand new look and some deadly twists on its mechanics. Firstly, we have the Hipfire shot, which is performed by Hipfire. Doing this will start a short windup of the Particle Disruptor before quickly shooting 3 shots back to back, only consuming 1 ammo in the process. Each shot deals 200 damage but has no penetration, no splash damage, and only bypasses armor, not Hume Shield. Secondly, there's Marksman Fire, which is performed by aiming down the scope and firing. Doing this will begin a long windup of the gun, being about 3 times longer than the Hipfire's windup. Wait, is that why it's called 3X? Huh. Anyways, this shot will fire 1 accurate big laser, dealing 500 damage, bypassing Hume Shield and armor, as well as having the splash damage deal 100 damage. This shot can also penetrate through doors and enemies indefinitely, only suffering damage fall off if this occurs. If the Particle Disruptor is in the middle of charging up a shot, you can actually throw it and it'll shoot on the ground. I can only imagine the trick shots people will get with this thing. Staying in line with weapons, we have the Weapons Refactor. This actually has a lot to it, so I'm just going to highlight the 3 most important things associated with it, and if you'd like a deeper dive into it, I made a video a while back talking all about it, which will be linked in the card in the top right. First off, there's now visible bullet tracers that will show where someone is shooting you from. These are purely cosmetic as the bullets are still hit scanned, but it should give you a better idea on where you're getting shot from by enemies. Secondly, lasers are finally getting nerfed on their ability to run and gun, but hey, put down the pitchforks. The base penalty for running and gunning is being lowered as well, so this is just to hopefully get some much needed variety in attachments. Finally, all the semi-auto pistols, even including the new revolver, can be fired automatically by just holding down left click. Oh yeah, we should probably talk about the new revolver, huh? The revolver, like the Particle Disruptor, has a new model and some new mechanics attached to it. These new mechanics mostly come in the form of its attachments, which include now a 7-shot cylinder using shotgun-like rounds, despite using revolver ammo still. And there's also a new flashlight attachment for the grip, so now every normal gun in the game will now officially have one. The revolver and its ammo will now actually spawn in the facility as well. It'll either be in 106's chamber or 096's chamber, behind the locked doors. As a Marauder, you now spawn with a whole 6 more bullets for the revolver, totaling 30, and there's some sick unique animations for you for pretty much everything regarding the revolver. Except for spinning the cylinder, which you can do by holding down the middle mouse button. And yes, that does mean you can play Russian roulette with your friends.
Bro.
Yo, he shot you. Why would you go for me, man?
The long-awaited new human models are here, including even the tutorial, and they have a ton of new animations. Check them out. There is a brand new SCP item. SCP-1344 will allow you to see a class-colored orb above any player within 15 meters of you, even through walls. If you directly look at a player from farther than 15 meters, then you will be able to see their orb regardless of distance, only disappearing after a 20-second timer when the player leaves your line of sight. SCP-1344 comes with some other benefits as well, like being able to see SCP-268 users via their orb, being immune to getting flashed by flashbangs, and seeing SCPs when they should otherwise not be visible, like 106 underground and 939 when you're under the amnesia status effect. You can also wear SCP-268 with SCP-1344, which is pretty neat. There are some downsides to stabbing your eyes out though. Obviously there's the fact that you'll be completely blinded at first, but this does eventually fade away into only being partially blind over 45 seconds. But it can be also cured by just taking a pill of SCP-500. Also, once you put on SCP-1344, you can never, and I mean never, take it off again. If you do, well, it'll certainly be a sight to see. We are now moving into the stuff that's going to be added over the period of the beta. This is in no particular order, as I have no clue when each of these will release, in all honesty. Experimental weapons will be fully implemented over the beta, balancing out the particle disruptor, adding the reworked micro, and adding the new experimental weapon lockers. Just as a quick explanation, the new EW lockers will hold the particle disruptor, jailbird, and any other experimental weapons Northwood cooks up in the future, while micro remains an especially dedicated room for itself. 1 locker is guaranteed to spawn, 2 is a 50-50 chance, and 3 is a 25% chance only if the second one spawn. But again, this would only come into effect once more EWs are added. As for the new micro, it now has 3 different firing types. First is the primary fire, which is done by just holding left click. This will start a very quick wind up while the micro charges up. The charge can't be held, however, requiring you to fire. This firing mode will deal 500 damage a second, have about the same range as the old micro, and drain at 5% a second. Secondly, we have the charge fire, which is done by holding right click. This will have a much longer wind up period, but in turn, be much more powerful. It'll deal a whopping 1500 damage a second, have the range of a full hallway, and can force closed and locked doors open, excluding checkpoints in 079's gate. The downside is that just beginning to fire will spend 10% of the charge and drain at 10% a second. Finally, we get to the alt fire. This firing mode is unique in the fact that you can't normally access it unless the micro overcharges. How does it overcharge? Well, it overcharges by you overcharging it for too long. Yeah, we're doing that bit again. When this happens, it'll explode in your hands and vaporize you into just shoes if you don't have any adrenaline, as this explosion will deal exactly 100 damage to you. Even though the micro freaking explodes in your hands and loses 25% of its charge, it can actually still be used, which leads us to the alt fire. This is the broken micro's only attack, and it'll deal 400 damage a second, have a quick wind up period, and have a cone-like AoE attack, the visuals of this being similar to the very old micro. We'll also have more changes to Heavy over the beta period, stuff like a rework to Nuke Room and the addition of bulkhead doors. If you don't know what those are, that's okay, because the info regarding them pretty much only just released publicly about a week ago. Essentially, they're like gates that spawn in between a hallway and are operated via button. There'll even be a variation of this door that only 079 will be able to operate, so that's pretty cool. Sadly, we don't know much about Nuke Room's rework, so I can't really comment on it at this time. Finally, we have the respawn overhaul, but I've already talked about this in length in a previous video and my thoughts on it in another, so as a very basic outline, Chaos will be 100% targets, mini waves happen between the big waves, teams have to earn limited respawn waves through objectives, and there's a new auto nuke that occurs when no respawns are left, called Dead Man's Switch. Now we get to the full release, which has some important things to it like server modding additions and backend changes, but the cool stuff is in the new achievements with new icons and the UI changes. I haven't seen the UI changes as of yet, but I have seen some of the new achievement icons and they look awesome. The new achievements also sound pretty interesting. Some are easy, while others I can see giving a real challenge. Sadly, I can't really speak on it much more than that since it's all been revealed in Northwood's latest Patreon post, so if you decide to get their Patreon for this beta, feel free to give it a look for yourself. And there you have it, 14.0 in a nutshell. Hopefully I didn't miss out on anything you'd consider important, but with how huge this update is, it's bound to happen. Like I said at the beginning, the Patreon beta will officially drop tomorrow, so make sure you get the $20 Zone Manager role on their Patreon so you can jump on in. It'll be linked in the description. Also, if you're watching this on the day it's been posted, I'll be going live on YouTube and Twitch with the new update at 3 PM EST, so drop on by and give me a yo smile. Well, that's been me. Have a nice day, everyone.